Robin, you have been a long-term community member and have been in variety hours and tech tutors and virtual meetups for many years, talking in after hours about the work you're doing. So I cannot believe it's taken us this long to have you actually featured as a speaker. Though I will note we tried to get you last year, you were just too busy for us. So we are so excited to have you come and talk about actually your work in full. So please take it away.
Thanks for the invitation, Steph. And I think even this time is not enough for the stuff I do, but I'll try to be quick. So I won't surprise anyone. So this is our biggest topic that we have and that we try to tackle. It's our biodiversity crisis, but probably you have not seen this guy. So this is the ugly elephant in the room, and that we don't only have a biodiversity crisis, but we also have a biodiversity knowledge crisis. So our established methods will be not good enough to tackle that, what we are doing right now, because most of them are not scalable, the old traditional ways of counting animals or species. And the big ugly truth is that in the future, we will not have enough wildlife biologists that can tell this species apart. So we have a big loss of knowledge on that side. And truth to be told, we're getting old. Also, I am getting old. So this is the same pullover, and this is young Robin. This was basically analog biodiversity. So we were capturing insects with nets, and we were looking through glasses, and this was old school biodiversity studies. And not so long ago, that was my bachelor thesis in Bolivia. So the only things that we used for detecting this bird species was like just a little knife and some pair of binoculars. So at that time, there was no ML or no AI helping us doing that work. So then I moved on to Austria, to the place where I still live. And I worked with alpine ibex. Also, this alpine ibex had to be counted. And we used this old beauty. This is one of the first digital wildlife camera traps in Austria. See that large 2 GB storage there. That was amazing. And we tried to capture as many pictures as we could from these ibex and established basically along their grooves on their horns, whether they were the same or there was a different ibex. And we did capture mark recapture with this old school camera traps, but going through all that pictures by hand. So I thought there's no more tedious work for me, but I was wrong. The next project I did was working with European roe deer on the side, and we captured quite a lot of roe deer and followed their tracks. And also we captured a lot of time-lapse footage. Altogether, 23,000 days of time-lapse. So at that time, there was no mega detector. There was no other way to go through that. So we sat there for years and watched every video of this timeless videos and punched down basically how many animals there are, when they come out, and what they do. So you see that I was just born too early for the development of this beautiful wildlife research world. Now I'm living here and working here in this flooded forest just between Vienna and Bratislava, so where the Carpathians and the Alps are meeting, and this is where we do our projects now. So why do we need new tools now? There's a lot of stuff that we have to tackle, a lot of tools that came out now that made our life so much easier. And I'm so thankful for all the guys that are listening and talking today that open source their hardware, open source their software, so that we can actually now tackle these large stuff. And a lot of that is community driven. So without all you guys, we couldn't do that monitoring as fast as we do it right now. So, but are we ready for these new tools? Are we really ready? So first we have to build them. Sometimes we're happy and sometimes someone else is building that for us. So GroupGets is building our audiomorph or our hydromorph, but sometimes This is Carl, by the way, a trusty friend that helps building all that stuff in my cellar. And also Phil Atkin, some guys also from the key that open source or that publish their detectors and everything that we can just rebuild and try to build this on our own to have it cheap and available for the monitoring. So then we go out with all that stuff. This is all LoRaWAN work that you also know that I love and hate. With Frank, we talked earlier about epic failures also of projects, also what is not working. And on the lower left, you see nice projects that we built for schools and kids to explore our natural surroundings here. And with lots of sensors that are sending data into that little hut there on the left, all transmitting via LoRaWAN. And we wanted also to track our animals in the forest via LoRaWAN, but then we figured out what's the absolute maximum that it can do. And if you have a really moist forest, dense moist forest, the signal is not getting through. So all our animals were running without any sensors. We just had to figure out this is the limit, we can't do anymore. So we now have to wait for the stars. So to get LoRaWAN via satellite, probably then we will try again. Another thing that we did was boreal camera trapping, also with a colleague of mine that is also in the talk, Frederik Sachser. This is one of his projects. And when we climb up the tree trunks, we do a little 3D scan of the hollows, so we can measure that afterwards. That's also some little gimmick that helps us being more effective in the field work and trying stuff out for free. Another thing that we do is we monitor invasive plant species. So we drive by with little GoPros and film the vegetation flying by. And then in that little square, you see an evil tree of heavens that is coming from Asia, but it's not belonging to Austria. And we try to find them and eradicate them and try to get them out of that landscape. But what we are really wanting to talk about today is bioacoustics. And all of you know that it's a big booming topic. Everyone goes crazy about bioacoustics. And we just started with that a couple of years ago, basically, just with the onset, like I started just a couple of years with that, with the onset of the audio moth, that made it possible to just bring these recorders into the field and do a lot of work with them. So in the beginning, it all seemed so simple. We just put out like one of these sensors, one of these audio recorders, a little bird is singing, you do analysis and you know that bird species there. Yeah, everyone is happy, everything is solved. But after a while, you get a lot of species, communities, a lot of species that are there. But then you start figuring out, okay, some of the species are harder to find than we did this little cute little guy. It's a tree. It's not a tree dormouse. That's miss of the BBC. It's actually a forest dormouse that we rediscovered, basically training a tiny machine learning model. And you can hear, probably you can hear it. Can you hear it? Can you? Okay. It sounds like underwater sounds, but basically it's just a little dormouse in the forest. And this is slowed down 8 times so that you can hear actually how much information is in there. And one of your office hours actually helped me a lot to develop this machine learning program for that. So Dan was there, helped me a lot, and Stefan Karl, and that made my day. And we could establish that. Another thing was hydromoth. Putting everything underwater was really cool to learn about that. And we have this little ugly fish on the left. In German, it's called the dogfish. It was rediscovered after a lot of years in Austria in a little pond right behind my house, basically. And now we put some hydrophones down there and listened to that fish. And we recorded the first voices of that fish ever recorded. And it's lots of fun to play around with little projects like that. When you go into bioacoustics, we said getting the species that are out there is quite easy nowadays. What makes it harder and what makes it important for us is to go one step ahead. we have to find out whether this species is also reproducing. How many birds are there, how many individuals are there, and whether they are reproducing or not. This is what basically our government wants to know, especially our nature conservation agencies want to know. And one example is that is an old species, and some of these calls are just the regular calls of that species, and the red ones are the begging calls of the young. So when you record the begging songs of the young, you know there is reproduction, and this is really important because we have to state that, we have to record that to see whether our measurements are working. Another example is the capercaillie, like a crazy little bird, a big bird here in the Austrian forest. And we combined videos and audiomoth. The audiomoth is up here, and you can see basically the song. You can't hear it right now, but he has a little jump, and you can see where the jump is done. And we try to figure out how many of these birds are in the forest. So we know they are capercaillie, but we have to find out how many there are. And they have a specific song where they have parts of the song that is really low. And in this low part of the song, there's a lot of information. It's like a fingerprint. So just by recording the songs of that males, these are 6 different males, and the lower part of the frequency range of that 6 animals. And you can see that they're really specific from individual to individual between these 6 birds. And so this would be one way to not only record the species, but also how many are basically at the site. And one other thing that we do now with the help of audiomoth also is to do triangulation. So we have like several audiomoth with GPS connected in the forest. And then when a bird is calling, we exactly know where it's calling, whether there's a second one in a second tree. And this is the second method that we try to establish here, to go over the species detection limit, going to individual level and also reproductive level. And why is that important? It's important because we don't do all these projects just for fun. We do it to get it into policy, to get Nature Protection Agency to get acting. And you only get policymakers to act on the stuff that you're doing when they trust in the systems that you do, and that the answers that you deliver are also fitting what they need for their reports. And a lot of the time, we just did research that were not fitting what actually the government officials needed for taking action. And you can't do that alone. Frederick is also in the talk here. He organized one of these meetings. Some of the Austrian bioacoustic people gathered together, trying to figure out what's the best way to go ahead, how to talk to government officials, how to standardize our approaches, how to get from that little Robin side project here to larger scale projects to get action on a larger level. And we can't do that alone. We have to do that in as a community. And WILDLABS is a big part of that community, and I'm so happy to have you around. Thanks for your patience, and happy to discuss that later.
Robin, you brought us back on time, but also that was such a beautiful talk, and so cool to hear all the ways that WILDLABS has like been able to interject and help in different projects, but also just to see the array of things that you're working on. What's your favorite project of them all, or one you're most proud of?
That's really hard to say, but I think it's when you're getting older, you're getting sentimental, and so the old times where you just slept in the forest and had lots of time, and enjoyed hours and weeks of time in the forest. That were the best times, but they're gone. Now we have to be productive. We have to code. We have to work on the computer. We have to manage our time. These times are gone, but they're amazing, and I won't miss them. And I think it's really important that people go through that time to then figure out what the machine learning is telling them, because you still need the species in your head to understand the results of the machine learning.
What a profound way to leave us. So thank you so much, Robin. And thank you so much to all of our speakers and to our team as well. And Henry for a kick-ass quiz today. And just all of our community and everyone in the chat saying just being as incredible as always. These are one of the funnest things that we get to do. So thank you so much for making it just such a pleasure. Bye, everyone.